We now move up the weight scale again to another heavyweight rivalry. Ezzard Charles and Jersey Joe Walcott were two great counterpunchers who bridged the gap between the reigns of heavyweight legends Joe Louis and Rocky Marciano. Neither fighter had the renown of those two champions, but together they produced four pulsating fights, with 3 of the 4 going the full 15 rounds. Bert Sugar, what about this rivalry? What made it so special?
Well, they were the two best fighters out there. Walcott, thought by all to be over the hill. Remember, he had had 2 fights with Joe Louis. One everybody thought he won on December 5th, 1947. The next year, Joe Louis's last fight as champion. He retired after that. Walcott gets knocked out. And yet, when Louis retires, they take Walcott and a rising young star, had been a light heavyweight, named Ezzard Charles. Pit them together, the winner. Remember, Charles had beaten Louis. The winner to take the heavyweight title and be the successor of Louis. That's how they pitted them together. Little do they know, they would have pitted them together 4 times.
How good were these fights, Al?
They were very good, and they were good fighters. Ezzard Charles, you can arguably make the case he's one of the 2 or 3 best light heavyweights of all time. He beat Charlie Burley twice, who was a renowned fighter of the time. He beat Archie Moore 3 times. And he beat Joey Maxim, twice, and he beat Joey Maxim several times. So this was a great, terrific fighter. And here against Joe Walcott.
And he knocks Walcott down.
We see him showing his power as a heavyweight.
Yeah, I mean, he's powerful. Albeit he did kill a man in the ring, Sam Baruti, and lost his, if you will, desire, a lot of it. So when he knocked a man down, he would step back. But Ezzard Charles was one of the all-time greats.
Now, that's the second fight that we saw just there.
Yes.
They get back at it just 4 months later, right,
Yeah,
Bert?
I mean, it was so good. But within that period of time, with Louis gone, they were the best they had. I mean, a Joe Baxi, a Leoma, who cares? They pitted him again, and this time in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
All right, let's take a look at it right now.
And in this fight, the Walcott people were, or the Ezzard Charles people, so sure they were going to win. They thought Joe Walcott was completely spent as a fighter, but clearly he showed right there he was not. That was a big upset.
That was a left hook. The same left hook that Walcott would ultimately use against Marciano in the first round to knock him down. This time, he knocked out Ezzard Charles.
That was some punch. Was there talk of, did he say it was sucker punch or something? What is he talking about, Bert?
Well, Walcott was a sucker punch fanatic. He would walk away or DQ.
Yeah,
and he did that twice against Louis in the first fight. Walk away and then come back with a right hand or up, looked like he was going elsewhere. He almost looked like he took a 4-way cold tablet and had to run 3 more ways to run up to catch up with it before throwing a punch. How's that for a metaphor?
Jeez, you lost me. I thought he lost me on Herbie High. Yes.
But he was a sneaky fighter. Everybody
really
admitted that. And that was a sneak left hand that just came right in underneath.
Al, we've already done the show with the greatest heavyweights with Bert here.
Yeah.
Where do these guys rate exactly? Because you go through that top 10, and then you get to, now you're confronted with Floyd Patterson and Sonny Liston. And where do these guys fit in?
Joe Walcott, it's kind of hard to know because he got such a late start and he get a title shot. He was, 37 years old? Or didn't win the title until he was 37.
And he was a Jimmy Braddock story as well. He was during the Depression. He was loading goods on the Campbell Soup docks. They'd call him with a week's notice. He'd lose, he'd come back. And all of a sudden he got a break against Louis. But you never know, as Al said, exactly how good he was.
And in Ezzard Charles' case, we know he was a phenomenal light heavyweight. But as a heavyweight, his legacy is mixed. And that third fight there with Walcott, really a key moment for him. As I pointed out, they were sure he was going to beat Walcott. They did it just to be nice to Joe Walcott, get in the fight. They expected him to win that fight, go on and make some more defenses. It didn't turn out that way.
And we also don't remember that Walcott not only had a great fight against Marciano, Ezzard Charles had 2 great fights at a very advanced age against Marciano.
Back here ringside at Gleason's Gym in Brooklyn, Brian Kenny alongside Burt Randolph Sugar, Angelo Dundee, and the former welterweight and middleweight champion of the world, Carmen Basilio. Bert, let's talk about the 2 fights between Carmen and Tony DeMarco, 2 of the all-time greats.
Yeah, I don't think anybody remembers how great these were. Back in 1955, these stood alongside Zale Graziano for ferocity, for savagery, for no survivors. Early going, both fights, DeMarco is taking headshots at Carmen. fungo practice. He's got him on what we used to call Leon Earl legs. They were strangers to each other as he wobbled around.
Leon Earl was?
Leon Earl was the great actor who always emulated a drunk as he wandered around with
An early Foster Brooks for those of us a little younger, right?
You couldn't be older.
Okay.
Therefore, you must be younger. And the legs were strangers to each other. He's wobbling around, never goes down. Carmen never goes down. But in about the 8th round of both fights, he starts going to the body, and he starts sapping DeMarco's strength. Ironically, both fights end in a knockout. Both fights end in the 12th round, and both fights end within 4 seconds of each other. They're carbon copies of two of the greatest fights in welterweight history. And in the first one, Carmen wins the welterweight championship and then defends it successfully against Tony DeMarco.
Angelo, what do you remember best about Carmen's shot at the title?
What I remember best is something I stole from him. He knocked out Saxton with an uppercut. Now, conventional uppercut, you turn your hand, you turn it up. Well, with Carmen, what he did, he hit you, bing, he hit you right, hit you with this.
Without turning.
And he flattened him. He flattened, the guy went boom. And then in one of the fights, he hit him, he's flattened him, he's on the way down, the referee's grabbing him. You'll see.
He's grabbing him by one arm.
He's grabbing him by the arm, holding him up.
I mean, it's a beautiful scene in almost freeze frame, because Carmen has done to Tony DeMarco what few could do to anybody, and Tony had him in terrible trouble all throughout the beginning of the fight.
Carmen, what was it like becoming a world champion when you got that win over DeMarco?
A great thrill. That was the whole boyhood dream come true.
Well, you had promised people you were going to become a champion.
Yes.
Even when you were...
From when I was a little boy, I was always going to be a world champion.
Got a better one. I got a kid named Mike Caballa. He's fighting Eastern Parkway. Took it on short notice. So my kid, Mike Caballa, beats him. A decision, 8 rounds. So I go down to the dressing room. All the newspaper, Bromberg was there. All the newspaper guys say, Carmen, you should quit fighting. You got arthritis. You break your hands all the time. You cut up. You should retire. You should quit. He says, you're crazy. He said, I'm going to be the world champion. That night, Eastern Parkway, my God, that's 49. So, but he explained to me, he used to grab fights, short notice, and there was no excuse. My kid was a good boxer. But I went down to console him, and this actually happened.
And you wound up with Carmen.
No, he wound up with me. No
I think we just said the same thing.
Let me tell you, it was a heck of a marriage. We got along so famously.
Well, but you're known as a great cut man. How did you learn to be a cut man?
I used to practice on his face.
All right.
Oh, wait, I got a better one.
All
Archie Moore, we're in Zaire. So we're having
No, don't go to Zaire. Hold on, wait a second.
We got a press conference.
Look, all right, so Carmen Basilio is the welterweight champ of the world. Time, 1955, Basilio again beats Tony DeMarco, becomes the welterweight champ, loses the belt in a disputed or robbery decision, as Bert would say.
Oh, no, the
to
mob
Johnny
did it.
Saxton
The
in
mob
March
did it.
of 1956. 6 months later, here we go. He fights Saxton again. Carmen Basilio against Saxton, September 1956.
And that right hand by Carmen Basilio almost dropped him. Saxton staggered, caught himself. Basilio now trying to put home the clincher. Basilio still has plenty of time, drives another right hand to the jaw, and Saxton staggers right above us. And the fight is stopped. Referee Al Burrow dives through there as an almost helpless Johnny Saxton.
And there's Carmen Basilio beating Johnny Saxton and beats Saxton again, knocks him out. Let me ask you, Angelo, you first. Why Sugar Ray Robinson? Why move up to middleweight and challenge Sugar Ray Robinson?
Well, he always felt he could beat Ray Robinson. He felt he could beat a good boxer. Because Carmen was a better boxer than anybody made. See, the whole trick that night, he was out jabbing Robinson. Getting in between his two arms, hoop, the slip jab. That's when they nail him with the right hand, come back with the hook.
Carmen, what were your thoughts on Sugar Ray Robinson? You're the welterweight champ. He's the middleweight champ. What were your thoughts on him?
I don't know. I knew he was taller than me, a hard puncher, much more experienced than me. But I was going to kick his ass.
Wait, what made you think you could beat Sugar Ray Robinson at that point, Carmen? Especially given your size, the size difference.
I was in top shape. like I was for all my fights. And if I'm in top shape with anybody, I don't care who they are, they're going to have trouble.
Carmen, I have to tell a quick story on Carmen. They come out, there's a 5.5-inch disparity in height for the instructions. Ray Robinson is sneering and leering at him, and he breaks into laughter. The referee had to find out what was going on. Al Burrell has to come over to him. What were you doing? You were just laughing at him at the instructions. He had started to sneer at you.
Yeah, well, he started to sneer like he was trying to scare me. And he made me laugh.
You don't scare easy.
I guess not.
You don't scare easy.
In his book, The Great Fights,
Let's go back once again. Yankee Stadium, September 23rd, 1957. Carmen Basilio versus Sugar Ray Robinson, the fight of the year in 1957. We go back right now and pick it up in round 9.
Into round 9, it almost seems time for an explosion. By now, almost everyone figured the climax would come. A sudden series of punches that might spell doom for either fighter. Both men are in superb condition. Both men are dishing it out and staying in there. Basilio still has that patch over his left eye. Notice how he continues to force the fight, although just a little bit slower. And Robinson, watching like a hawk, always looking for that split-second opening, eager to uncork his combinations. Number 11, 30 minutes of actual fighting have gone by. Neither man has really taken over, but this is the round that will be the fiercest of them all. Before it's over, we'll see the fastest, hardest exchanges of the entire fight. Watch closely. Facilio has him on the ropes. 30 seconds left in the round.
Wow. How about that? Carmen, what's it like to stand in front of Ray Robinson? And you're watching it here once again. What's it like to move in on him like that? Describe
What's it like?
Yeah.
Another fight.
Even with this guy, even with that guy that much bigger.
Well, you know you're going to get hit.
Didn't look like it did any damage to your face.
No, it didn't.
Angelo, what are you telling him between rounds in this fight where, you know, he's getting off on him, but he's taking some jabs consistently?
When Carmen was perking with his jab, he was very, very effective. But see, Carmen hit you under, over, around. He was hitting Robinson some great shots to the body, too. And what took it out of Robinson when he came back like he did? He threw some great shots at Carmen. He expected, wait, where's this guy going to fall down? Carmen didn't fall down. Carmen jumped
in
on
the barrage, too, he moves his head pretty well. I mean, it's not just they don't
slide.
Right.
Slide.
He'll move their head.
He's under. You know, I just saw more action in that 11th round than I see in most fights today in the whole fight.
Yeah.
I mean, that was brilliant, both of them. And Carmen was able to get under, and we didn't see it yet. You saw vestiges of it. A rat-a-tat-tat jab by Robinson in the early rounds, and Carmen kept pressing to get in, smaller arms, shorter arms, got into the body, and he moved inside. You saw him take anything just to get inside.
How hurt was he, Carmen, in that last sequence that we saw at the end of round 11? Did you think he was going down? You were
No, I didn't think he was going down, but I knew that I was getting to him. You know, I was hitting him and getting him pretty solid punches. But I didn't look for him to go down.
What's the conversation between rounds between you two, Angelo? Tell us.
Very quiet, very easy. Work on him, keep quiet. You know, Carmen kicks, just keep stay steady.
You had to feel pretty good about where you were at this point.
I was happy as I can be.
It mentioned that there was a patch over his eye. Was he bleeding or cut?
Well, he may have had a cut, but it was nothing. Just, you know, touch it, and I just squeeze it a little bit and put a little Vaseline over it, that's all.
I like your right hand hook combination. He's still pretty quick with that.
That's why I'm sitting over here.
It looks like it's happening slow, but then when you get your moment, Carmen, tell us about that. Is that your favorite combination? God, throw that, Carmen. You throw that right hand, come back with that hook.
I saw you flinch.
Neither man has scored a knockdown, yet both of them have power enough to pull it off with a single punch. Both men are showing their weariness. Here we go for the final round. Through it all, both Robinson and Basilio have dueled like champions. With just 3 minutes left, Basilio is still the aggressor. Robinson, who figured to have it tougher if the fight went as long as this, is gamely hanging on, mouth open, jabbing all the time and tying Carmen up in the clinches. Seconds to go. There's the bell, and the big fight is over. Both Sugar Ray Robinson and Carmen Basilio deserve tremendous credit. Each is responsible for one of the truly great fights of our time. But now it's all up to the ring officials appointed by the New York State Athletic Commission. Here's announcer Johnny Addy with their decision.
Judge Adi Idala scores it 9-5, 1 even, Basilio. Referee Al Burl scores it 9-6, Robinson. The other judge, Bill Recht, scores it 8-6, 1 even. The winner and new middleweight champion of the world, Carmen Basilio.
So Carmen Basilio is the middleweight champion of the world, a split decision win over Sugar Ray Robinson. Carmen, what were your feelings at this point when you get a win over Sugar Ray?
That's the champion of the world, middleweight champion of the world. So I was very happy. I thought that I won the fight. I knew that I was going to get it.
At what point did you know you were going to get it? All through the fight or at any given time?
I thought that I won the fight.
How close was it, Angelo?
Well, I thought Carmen had the best shoulder of punches and the comeback. You know, and the thrill for me was a little man beating a big man. That ain't supposed to happen in boxing.
Well,
Say a big guy.
I didn't get to point out,
beat a little
right,
guy.
and to point out, too, that's going from 147 to 160. There's no
That's it.
junior middleweight at that point.
And he was only the second man ever, at welterweight, ever to win the middleweight title. What was exciting was, not only as Angelo said, little man, big man, Carmen is in a crouch, which even magnifies the discrepancy in weight. So they look, somewhat like the 1939 World's Fair symbol. But Carmen was getting in there under his jab. Yes, he took a lot of punishment. So wonder poor Angie didn't have a lot more face work to do. At times Carmen's face looked like a stitching of a baseball. But he got in there, and that double left hook to the body was beautiful.
And we see the shots tremendous knockout power. And Angelo, at one point you said, look, that's the type of hook that knocked out Fulmer, didn't knock out Carmen.
No, that's as famous Ray Robinson left hook. He took it right on the banana. I mean, he took it, and he was there.
Hey, we're going to take a look at some highlights right now. But Carmen, what is it like for you coming out of upstate New York and working on the farm through a lot of your life and now fighting at Yankee Stadium for the middleweight title? What is that like for you?
The boyhood dream come true. Thought about fighting in Yankee Stadium since I was a little boy. We had a high school boxing team. Would you believe the only reason why I went to high school? Because that high school had a boxing team. Because I wanted to get on the boxing team. And I did. I got on the last boxing team that the school had.
That's a good reason to go to school. I never found a reason to go to high school.
Angelo, was Carmen the overachiever that he appears to be, or was he a blue chipper? What were his prospects before he became a division champion?
That's interesting because none of these guys are alike. Carmen's one of a kind. He was his own guy, had his own backpack, his own scissors, his own bandages. And then when I first started working with him, I said, I don't need nothing. You got everything in your bag. He took care of everything himself. In fact, he used to wrap his hands himself. First time I wrapped his hands, he told me, hey, first guy wrapped my hands in 2 years. I said, what for? He said, I always break them. So I said, thank you told me now. I said, if I'd have wrapped you told me that before, I'd have done a bad job. No, Carmen's a very special human being. The hardest worker that you ever want to see, is smart, and we got along great. We had so much fun together.
Champion Carmen Basilio goes about the business of preparing for his title defense against Sugar Ray Robinson. Our cameras go behind closed doors to give him an exclusive view of the champion as he puts the finishing touches on his training for the March 25th set 2. Most boxing experts agree that Basilio's biggest asset is his excellent physical condition. Carmen, working out on the exercise table, is a fanatic when it comes to fitness. Stamina has been a profitable commodity for the battle-scarred veteran. He has worn down many an opponent. Not many fighters can boast that they stood up for 15 rounds under the heavy siege of Robinson's fists. In the first fight, Basilio took everything Ray could throw. The same can be said for Robinson. But when it was all over, Basilio was the new wearer of the middleweight crown. Carmen intends keeping the title in the 15-round return go, which can be seen on theater television on the night of March 25th.
Carmen, in your career as a welterweight and middleweight, you've met terrific fighters. Which do you consider the best fighter and your toughest fight?
Well, I think my last fight with Sugar Ray was my toughest because of his size and his punching power and his all-around know-how.
The late Chris Schenkel going up to the Basilio camp in Syracuse. Carmen, what was your camp like getting ready for the rematch?
There was a lot of people there, the spectators, watching me train all the time. But it was a good place for me to be. I enjoyed training there.
There had to be a level of celebrity at this point. I mean, where now you're not just the champ, now you're a two-division champ. You beat Sugar Ray Robinson.
The man who beat Sugar Ray Robinson.
Look, what was that like, that level of celebrity that you attained at that point in your life?
I didn't think nothing of it.
It didn't affect you. Angelo, weigh in on that. What was it like? What was it like at this point in his life?
I just did my job the way people expected me to do it, that's all.
Carmen, steady, never a glamorous sort of a guy. He just did what he had to do, and he enjoyed it. But he's always had camaraderie with people. He's always been that warm. So there wasn't. When he got the title, he was the same guy.
Angelo, you were making mention of the fact that between the first and the second fight, while he only had a nick, he also had a minor operation.
He had the artery tied over the eye. And see, I think that was essential why the lid blew up.
In the second fight?
In the second fight, I worked on that eye after the fight all night long. Couldn't get the swelling down. And I called Truman Gibson. I said, please get me a doctor. And we took him to the hospital. Truman Gibson actually saved us, with the eye.
The IBC executive.
Yes, he was tremendous. And
but that eye will come into play in the second fight, and you will see it. It's probably, according to what I heard, it's what Sylvester Stallone used in one of his Rocky movies as a visual, and you'll see it in the second fight.
You'll see a lot of these stills as well. Right now that we just saw the late Chris Schenkel with a report. Now here's Carmen Basilio at the weigh-in. Howard Cosell makes an appearance.
Carmen, in all the excitement after the weigh-in, just one question. I've polled 10 sports writers from around the nation here. 9 of them picked Sugar Ray to win by a knockout tonight. What's your answer to that?
9 of them are wrong.
Thank you, Carmen.
Carmen, what do you think of Howard Cosell? You have any recollections?
I got along good with Howard.
Yeah?
He's a good guy. He's all right.
But you just left him in the lurch there. You just said 9 or 10 are wrong and you walked away.
He said I walked away.
You walked away from him.
I wasn't paying attention to him. Well, he's an easy guy to walk away from, too, Howard is a good, interesting person, but he could also be a real pain in the ass.
Yeah. Let me ask you about something quickly. You respected Ray Robinson, but you didn't particularly like him, did you?
There's no love there.
Why?
Because there's no love with him toward me either.
What caused that?
Because we were going to be opponents, for one thing. And He looked down at me as a little tiny middleweight, welterweight that's going to come into the middleweight to fight for his title, and he had a little disdain for me for that.
Do you think he tried to, you'll excuse the
He
word?
tried to scare me.
Yeah, but also did he try to screw you on the financial side?
No, he couldn't do that.
Why?
Because I would not allow it.
What was the first time you met him? What was that like, Carmen?
New York City, in one of the nightclubs there. It was a very cold meeting because he wasn't interested. He's looking down at me like I was just a so-so.
And did that was that the feeling throughout from him, and did that motivate you, that type of being sneered at?
Yeah, that
he was better than you?
That motivation, like you said, and they try to give you the attitude that he was much better, be the king. So it did upset me a bit.
Angelo, what was it like just before this fight? Before we take a look at it, what was your feeling in the rematch? What did you think? Your chances? What did you think?
I was worried he was going to overwork because he was really keen for the fight. Because he was a hard worker, and some guys can overdo, and you got to get them to a point where they're sharp, and you keep them that way. So listen, this guy used to work. That's why he was such a great fighter.
All right, here we go, the rematch right now. We pick it up. Here it is, Basilio Robinson 2, May 25th, 1958. It's in Chicago.
15 rounds, middleweight championship of the world. And the challenger from New York City, he scaled 159 3/4 pounds. He's wearing the white trunks with a black stripe, the former world's welterweight and middleweight champion, Sugar Ray Robinson. And ladies and gentlemen, from Canastota, New York, he scaled 153 pounds, wearing the black trunks with a white stripe, the world's middleweight champion, Carmen Basilio.
15 rounds for the middleweight championship of the world. Before a sellout crowd of close to 20,000 fans in Chicago Stadium, Carmen Basilio defends his crown for the first time. Sugar Ray Robinson seeking to regain the crown he lost 6 months before, attempting to win the world title for the 5th time. Fierce momentum has them punching after the bell. By round 3, the pace is fast as ever, and the fight is even Steven. Sugar Ray trying to drive those hard jabs to the body and face. Basilio, still the superb champion, trying to get in murderous body blows of his own. Here's a nice view from row 1. comes one of the critical rounds of this tremendous battle. Carmen Basilio having trouble with his left eye. Before the round is over, Sugar Ray will shake him with blows to the face that will damage that eye even more. Frank Sikora is the referee. Just look at that bulging left eye of Carmen Basilio's. By now, he's really in trouble. For the past 4 rounds, Robinson has been content to pace himself for a long fight. Meanwhile, Basilio, with one eye, is putting up one of the gamest fights of his career. It's amazing the way this smaller man is going after Robinson. Round 10, and both fighters are giving it all they got. The pace is still fast for this late in the fight, and what a match this is. Robinson, the master boxer. Basilio, a guy who's all heart. Watch for the terrific close-ups of that all-important eye. keeps stalking his man. What a battle this Carmen Basilio is putting up. Sugar Ray is fighting a half-blind opponent. Watch the referee on the break.
All right, the swelling in the eye is getting worse for Carmen Basilio against Sugar Ray Robinson. We have some classic shots here, guys, from the classic archive. Angelo, as we look at these, and you guys can both look at these, how bad is the eye at this point, Angelo? What are your thoughts on Carmen?
Well, it was so bad I couldn't put the ice pack on it because it was painful. And that's why I was telling Carmen, because I noticed some blood was coming from the corner of the eye. So the upper lid was completely down to here. So I'm putting the ice on it, and it's hurting, but this guy never said anything. But I told Carmen, I think I should stop this fight. He said, you stop it, I'll knock you out. I said, no, you ain't. So that went out the window.
Carmen, how bad was it?
I don't know.
What was it like fighting with that eye?
You didn't see it.
I didn't see it.
You didn't see a heck of a lot out of that eye.
No.
How did it affect your fighting in this fight? How bad? What was the eye doing to your ability?
No problem. Everything's okay.
It was a problem. He was getting hit with right hands because he was sliding and hitting it with the right hand.
You can't see it coming.
So that's what he was doing. Robinson was feinting, going right, bing, dropping the right hand over. Carmen didn't see it. He would have slipped that right hand.
You think that cost him the fight?
God, yes. God, yes.
I mean, this is your first champion out of 15, and all of a sudden he's not going to be a
handicap.
champion.
Sure, he's got this handicap.
So, Carmen, you weren't feeling like this fight should be stopped. You'd never entered your mind that maybe this should.
You wouldn't want them to stop that fight. No reason for it.
As long as you had two hands, you were okay?
As long as I'm all right.
One eye, two hands.
One eye, two hands, doesn't make any difference.
I tried to get the swelling out of there by sliding the ice bag. And literally one round, I tried to suck out the blood. If I'd have been a vampire, I could have saved it. I would have done it.
You still have a couple of rounds to go. Angelo, what were your thoughts? And again, this is a very close fight. What were your thoughts on where you were on the scorecards? Are you thinking about that, or what are you exactly you're thinking?
Well, you don't think. You think about the welfare of the fighter first, then everything secondary. Because it was a very close fight. It was that kind of a fight where everybody could have got it.
Carmen, how would you compare this fight to the first fight with Robinson?
I think there's a lot of more confusion and distraction. My handlers, not so much Johnny DeChamps, but Joe Nitro is a big gambler, you know. Bet the horses and all that.
Angelo, how did it affect him? I mean, what were your thoughts on the management situation? And many a fighter has lost momentum because of management situation.
I stay so far away from that stuff. That's why I'm still here. What I do, I take care of the fighter and do what I have to do. And Carmen's feelings, it's the first time he's ever said this, you know, I'm surprised. You know, but the thing is, anything that affects the fighter, you try to get away from the fighter.
Right.
You try. I didn't know.
Touch gloves for the last round. Two marvelous fighters in a tremendously exciting match, calling up every ounce of strength. He's tired, too. Before we hear Ben Bentley's announcement, here are some slow motion highlights of this thrilling last round.
Judge John Bray scores 64 points, Basilio 71, Robinson. Referee Frank Sikora 66 points, Sugar Ray 69, Carmen Basilio. And Judge Spike McAdams, 72 points. Sugar Ray Robinson, 64. Carmen Basilio, the winner and the new world's middleweight champion, Sugar Ray Robinson.
Another fight of the year, another split decision. Angelo, your thoughts on the decision, this time going to Sugar Ray Robinson?
Well, actually, you can't keep score. You're working with a fight, you're a biased bump. Everything he does is great. Everything the other guy is nothing. So you're not a good scorekeeper, really.
Right.
I used to check with the newspaper guy to say, you know, which one, who got the round. I would check with that.
And did you always get opinions that agreed with each other from the press row?
No, they disagreed. But the point is, I got a barometer where I knew it was a close fight.
Yeah.
Knew. But the look of that eye took away from Carmen's performance.
Do you think that hurt? As far as
Oh,
that happens when the guy looks busted up.
Yeah. You think the judges that
Oh, definitely
basically
get
thought,
influenced by that. Certainly, it's a natural thing.
Carmen, what is it like to fight when you have this type of injury? Well, you can't see out of that
I had
eye.
a fight. There was no way out. I couldn't quit.
Carmen, you just you kept fighting. I had you winning that
I was
fight.
supposed to fight. I thought I won the fight.
Well, so did a lot of writers. I mean, that's why it was a split decision.
So
But
after
I couldn't see to the left. My eye was closed.
But you had no trouble finding him.
No, I found him.
found him often.
Found him.
Carmen, after this fight, did you figure there'd be a third fight?
He would never fight me.
Why not? What happened with would you ever get close to negotiations?
Yeah, he's probably some stubbornness, dislike for me, probably. He had something to do with it.
But did you ever
He's
discuss
afraid
it?
that he's going to get his ass kicked.
Did you ever discuss it, or your managers with his?
No, we're going to never discuss it.
It never came up.
It never came up. No, he wanted no part of me.
Get his W and walk away, basically, Angelo, right? Like a lot of guys. You get your win, you're going to walk away from Carmen Basilio.
That's right. No, when you're with Carmen, you got to fight to get out of there. There's no gates there.
Yeah, right. Right.
Do you think that it cost you a lot of money not having a third fight with Ray?
Oh, we probably blew some money, yeah. You know, but I made some money anyway after with other fights.
So you didn't. While it bothered you, it didn't really.
It didn't bother me that badly.
Disturb you that much.
Did you go to the horses with Joe Nitro?
Did I go to the horses?
Yeah, well, you made more money, you said.
No, Joe Nitro never made
We
any
have now
money.
discussed horses more than we have discussed
Joe
much.
Nitro never made any money on the horses.
Hey, Carmen, one thing.
He lost his tail all the time.
Carmen, do you put Sugar Ray Robinson at a different level from the other fighters that you fought, or is he right there at the
No,
level of DeMarco and Fulmer?
He's a harder puncher. He was tall, very clever fighter.
What do you think he was, as many people do, the greatest fighter ever?
No,
Who do you think was?
Willie Pep.
He's your number one pound for pound, Willie Pep.
That's interesting.
What about you, Angelo? What do you think?
I always thought Willie Pep, pound for pound, was the best fighter.
Good. I got two Italians telling me Willie Pep.
No, Willie Pep was artistry in motion. The guy was so smooth, so good. He couldn't break an egg and he used to beat guys with his boxing ability.
They had almost 400 fights.
I know it. They ain't chopped liver.
Compared to that, and he was top notch all the time.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Brian Kenny. Welcome back to Ringside Rivalries. I'm joined in Gleason's gym by Carmen Basilio, one of the main principals in another legendary boxing rivalry, Carmen Basilio versus Gene Fulmer. Their bouts added yet another bloody and controversial chapter to the classic middleweight fights of the 1950s and the early 1960s. Bert, I'm watching Jermaine Taylor and Bernard Hopkins, and I'm thinking of Basilio Fulmer. And where's the fighting? Where's the great fighting that we saw in those fights? I mean, these are epic battles.
These were not poseurs. These were not people finting and counterfeiting. Gene Fulmer and Carmen Basilio were two throwback hard hat fighters who went at each other. Neither of them were afraid of the other or afraid of getting hit. One has to tell you, although I'm sitting next to him, look at that face. Does it look like a person who ever blocked a punch? They're now fighting for a portion of the it's now the NBA.
The NBA,
NBA,
yeah.
That's a forerunner of the WBA. Middleweight championship, they have stripped Ray Robinson of the middleweight title. Only Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and New York recognize him at this point. It's open. And whom do they pit for the Open Championship? Two ex-middleweight champions, Gene Fulmer, Carmen Basilio.
Carmen, describe that first fight with Gene Fulmer. What do you remember about it?
Well, it was a rough, tough fight. We fought head-to-head, you know, and I hadn't fought in quite a while. You got to fight often once in a while. I don't care how long you go to the gym for. And I was approaching the over-the-hill gang, and you got to fight often in order to
George
stay
Allen
sharp.
didn't get him.
Right, you're 32 at this point, right, Carmen?
At that time, I was 32,
Yeah.
but you can't fight once every 17, 18 months. You got to fight every 3 or 4 months. And I always should tell my manager, give me some fights, keep me busy.
Gene Fulmer had changed his style for that fight. Instead of running full throttle at Carmen, which would have been like two bull moose, and he just, which I don't think can happen, but the two bull moose colliding.
Yeah.
He now chose to go backwards, making Carmen come to him in the first fight. So that it was Carmen who was coming forward and Gene was countering. And it was one hell of a battle.
I tell you what, you're watching this, and again, it is two very strong men going at each other, but the infighting, the skilled infighting, is just fascinating to watch. Again, Carmen Basilio, Gene Fulmer, the first fight at the Cow Palace.
Both of you men have received your instructions from Chief Inspector Willie Ritchie at the Commission office today. I'm not going to go through the instructions again. I want to remind you, though, that when I tell you to break out of your clinches, break clean, don't hit on the break, shake hands now, and may the better man win. And,
This fight is scored on the 10-point must system. 10 points for the winner of each round, 9, 8, or less for the loser. If the round is even, 10 points for both men. They're using 8-ounce gloves. No mandatory 8 count, no 3 knockdown rule. Real rough first round. 1 minute. Fulmer said he had 3 plans of attack. Be interesting to see if we can decipher.
Fulmer scoring very well, really bouncing that glove, especially that right, off Basilio's chin. Now it's Carmen's turn. Ten seconds. That's the end of round 1. Well, this big crowd here tonight really saw a terrific first round. That's what they came to see. The styles are that way. 2 good punchers. 2 former world champions. Carmen Basilio is in the white trunks. Gene Fulmer in the black. You notice Fulmer used to plow forward all the time. Now he's moving backward, jabbing as he goes. He's adopted a sort of an Archie Moore wraparound protection. Boy, the crowd loves this. And then pile it in there.
Through 7 rounds, Fulmer was slightly ahead on the official scorecards, scoring pinpoint counterpunches as Basilio stalked him, trying to land one of his devastating left hooks. Then, late in the 8th round, thunder shook the Cow Palace.
Oh, he's strangling Basilio! Basilio almost went down!
Perhaps saved by the bell, Basilio went to his corner dazed, but not done. In rounds 9 through 12, the 2 former champions slugged it out toe-to-toe, looking for the KO. A Basilio blow caused Fulmer to bleed in the 12th round, but the clever middleweight from Utah continued to outscore the New Yorker, a man who had never been knocked out in 74 professional fights. Let's head back to San Francisco for round 13.
Carmen Basilio in the white trunks, in case you just tuned in. Gene Fulmer in the black, both former champions, boxing here tonight in the Cow Palace for the NBA Middleweight Championship of the world. 2 rounds to go. Two rounds to go after this round. This is round 13. Fulmer, of course, is the underdog. It was obvious at the start of the fight that the majority of the people here were Basilio rooters, although both men are equally popular. There are a group of fans down from Utah, from the Mormon area, to root for Gene Fulmer because he always gives a slam-bang, all-out, honest performance. You can also sense, if you just tuned in, from the attitude of a corner, whether it's calm or whether they feel that their plan of attack is working. And this corner looks like a pretty confident corner. At one stage in the fight, after a toe-to-toe exchange, Basilio's knees buckled, and it looked as if he was ready to be knocked out. But when the match resumed, Fulmer went back to his stabbing, moving, boxing attack. He evidently didn't want to gamble on a knockout. The thing to remember that this essentially is a boxing match and points are scored. So it's up to the judges and the viewers to decide who is the better boxer and who is scoring the most points. Gene Fulmer is the winner on a TKO. The referee mercifully stopped the fight. Although Carmen hadn't been knocked down, he had been taking a beating ever since round one. Carmen protested. Gene Fulmer, his strategy worked. He stayed outside, he jabbed, he moved, he was an elusive target. Carmen Basilio plowed straight forward, fought on a straight line, was easy to hit. Carmen was unable to get through the defensive tactics of Gene Fulmer, who covered up beautifully in close and who punched his way to the middleweight championship of the world, National Boxing Association middleweight championship.
You planned a running fight from the beginning, apparently.
That's right, Don. We figured Basilio would be putting the pressure on, which he did. There's no use two bulls going in there and locking horns. I figured that I would be faster and could beat him to the punch, and it worked out that way. But take nothing away from Basilio. If I had fought him the way he wanted to fight, things might have been different.
Well, did he hurt you a couple of times, didn't he, Gene?
Yes, he did. He's the toughest guy that I ever fought, bar none. He was in there, and he's a guy. I'd like to fight the guy again, give him another chance.
Well, that would be very nice. You'll never meet a gamer fighter, will you?
No, I never will, or a finer sport either.
There you go, a lot of mutual respect, but let's talk about the stoppage. It's funny, decades later, Bert, a bad stoppage remains a bad stoppage. Carmen, what was your reaction to getting stopped? You'd never been stopped before, right?
No.
So what was your reaction to that?
First time ever.
You looked incredulous. What was your reaction to it?
Well, I blame my managers for that. They were so busy betting on horses and going to races and all that, they didn't have time enough to book me for fights. I like to tell them, give me some fights to keep me active, to keep me sharp, and all that.
Carmen, did his style or
his style was a tough one. He was an aggressive fighter.
But now he's going backwards.
He's going backwards, and he's counter-punching.
I got to tell you a quick story on his style.
Gene was a good fighter, no doubt about that.
The first time he comes to New York, Teddy Brenner, who is the matchmaker at Sunnyside Garden, out in Brooklyn, looks at him and says to his manager, Marv Jensen, Marv, look, I don't care if he's got 23 consecutive wins and 18 knockouts. Take the train home, please. Take my money before he steps on his two full feet and breaks his own damn neck, because he is a clumsy-looking fighter, but effective. Mm-hmm. What he did was outstrength his opponent, and you could see it there because Carmen Basilio is one of the strongest fighters around. And yet, they became so hyphenated, Fulmer-Basilio or Basilio-Fulmer. I remember one card show out in Vegas. It's emptying, a lady runs up to Gene Fulmer and says, Mr. Fulmer, no, she said, Mr. Basilio, I'm sorry, may I have your autograph? And Gene takes the piece of paper and starts writing. He turns to me and says, how do you spell Basilio? They are so intertwinable still today that this is Carmen Fulmer.
You still like him. I mean, you two get along very well.
We've been good friends all the time.
That's
Matter of fact, we even traded bird dogs together.
Did you?
He had bird dogs and I had bird dogs.
Respect throughout the decades. Let's go back to round 8. Again, this was an incredible fight. 8th round would pick it up, and there were real shots being delivered. I liked, again, the skilled infighting in this. And look at this. This is a tremendous shot as you came in and absorbed it, Carmen. I don't know how you stood up.
And you see, Gene is going backwards and letting Carmen come to him.
Were you saved by the bell here, Carmen? Or you think you could have weathered it? It looks like you could weather anything.
I had a shot at him, but he came back after me. So it wasn't a good enough shot so that it stayed with him.
And you took another. That's a huge shot in the 14th.
Now he staggered me. See?
That's in the 14th. Now, should they have stopped this fight, Carmen?
They're going to stop it.
No, should they have? Do you think that's a bad
I could have finished the fight.
Yeah. You think you could have won?
Oh, I doubt if I would have won. I was way behind on points in the fight. You know.
Did you feel it at that time, not that you were behind on points, but that you were going to lose?
I knew that I was losing the fight, and the only way I could win was by knockout.
And Gene Fulmer is not easy to knock out.
Nobody knocked him out except Robinson.
All right, let's move ahead then. There's a rematch again, the two classic fights. We have now get a chance to take a look at footage from the Fulmer Basilio rematch that hasn't been seen in decades. The second one around, we go to the 12th round. And again, this is rare footage. And once again, classic action. Bert, 12th round.
Again, look at this. These are two guys who are just beating the bejabbers out of each other. I mean, you want to see fighting. This is fighting. And look at the referee stepping in. Carmen is less than happy about this. He's about ready to clock the referee because I don't know why they called it so prematurely.
Carmen, what happened there? Why did they call that there? Do you have any idea? You're obviously upset they had to bring the cops in.
I think he was betting on Fulmer.
You know what the irony is? The cops.
This is a joke, or that's not a joke?
It's not a joke.
I'm going to ask him. Hold on.
I mean, seriously,
Do you think there was
the
funny business
referee
going
was
on?
betting on Fulmer.
All right.
He stopped it very prematurely. The
Yes,
cops
I
come
agree
in
with that.
to quell Carmen. Now the cops get into an argument with each other, two of them. They have to send in more police to quiet down the two police who are arguing that it was a correct stoppage and a non-correct stoppage. So it wasn't just Carmen who thought.
Oh,
that
sure.
It was,
no, you can watch it now. Again, that's rare
No,
footage. It hasn't been seen
I
in
could have
decades.
I could have finished the fight.
How close was it at the time, Carmen?
Well, he was ahead on
Yep.
points, no doubt about that, but he wasn't winning it big. And I was in the fight. I was giving him my shots. I was popping him a few shots.
Thanks for joining us again here at Gleason's Gym. I'm Brian Kenny, and this is ESPN Classic's Ringside Rivalries. The great rivalries generally elevate sports, and while on occasion some turn ugly, very few cast a dark shadow across a nation's consciousness. That's what happened when Emil Griffith and Benny Paret battled over 3 vicious contests in the early 1960s. When Paret taunted Griffith with a gay slur at the weigh-in for their second fight in 1961, this matchup became bitter and deeply personal, generating tragic consequences. Gil Clancy was the trainer of Emil Griffith. Gil, let's go back and start at the beginning here. What kind of guy was Emil Griffith? What type of man was he?
Never met a nicer person in your entire life than Emil Griffith.
What was it like training him as he comes up and now gets a shot at the welterweight title?
Well, he was always just such a great guy in the gym. Do anything you told him, whatever you told him to do. If I told him to jump out a window, he would have done that. But he was just a great kid all around and great in the gym.
Griffith is one of the all-time greats. Bert, talk about Griffith.
Well, he had, first of all, his body was unbelievable. His upper body was that of almost a heavyweight. He came down in a V. Mm-hmm. He almost had shoulders you could serve a sit-down table for 6 on. And he was powerful, and he could hit. The irony is he didn't have that many knockouts, but he could hit. And he was always moving and always in position to throw that next punch. He was a brilliant fighter.
Pete, what about this rivalry? I know you had your intentions on the third fight, you saw the third fight, but what about the rivalry as far as the top welterweights?
I think the rivalry was based on the fact that they were fairly evenly matched. You know, these were not, for either guy, a setup with some stiff in Steubenville, Ohio. They were very evenly matched.
We're going to get letters from Steubenville, Ohio, you know that.
From Don Elbaum. So the evenness of the match was one thing, but I think there was as each fight happened, Paret's contempt for Griffith on a personal level grew, and Emil's rage at this guy grew along with the contempt, and so the inevitable feeling you had in the last fight was a product of the 3 fights.
Right.
And the thing about Emil when Gil was bringing him up is that every time I saw him, as a fan, I wasn't there as a newspaper man yet, he got better. He obviously learned as he was going along, and while he was fighting, he learned from fights that were closer than they should have been. He learned if he got hit when he shouldn't have gotten hit. And he got to be a better fighter, so that the best fighter, the best Griffith, probably ever, was in the third Paret fight, because he was not the same after it.
Let's look at the first fight right now. This is an exciting night. The first bout, again, April 1st, 1961. It's in Miami. There's no messing around in the ring that night. The climax to the fight came here in the 13th round. Don Dunphy, of course, has the call.
You joined us late. It's been a bit of a seesaw battle. That's the first knockdown. Paret is down. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. A knockout for Emil Griffith. Emil Griffith, who was God himself, picked up by Gil Clancy. We're going to have an interview.
There we go. Going to have an interview with Gil Clancy right now. Gil, your first world championship. What was it like for you?
Oh, it was just great. It more so for Emil because he did what I thought he was going to do, and it worked out. But it was my first world champion and very important to me.
What did you look for in that fight? As if you win the championship, what did you think Benny Kid Paret would do that you had to prepare for?
Well, we know the kind of fighter Benny Paret was. He was a guy that always came forward, very busy, and we worked on Emil's jab to set everything else up and then get ready to be combination punches.
And where'd that left hook come from?
That was something that we were working on all the time. And at the end of the 12th round, I told Griffith, you've got to start going out and throwing that left hook. What are you waiting for? Tomorrow, you know? And sure enough, he went out in that 13th round and landed that great left hook.
And so Emil Griffith's the welterweight champion of the world at the age of 23, but Paret won the title back in the second bout. After the fight, Paret set his sights a little higher, and Bert goes after the middleweight championship of the world, December 1961, against Gene Fulmer. How hard of a hitter was Gene Fulmer, Bert?
Gene was a clubber, but he said in this fight he never hit anybody harder. And you can see this. He is just beating the bejabbers out of Benny Kid Paret. It might, if you will, be a indication of the damage that Paret went into the ring with, because he next fights Emil Griffith in their third fight. And he's taken a heck of a beating.
You know, Pete, it reminds me when we watch things on Classic of how the mindset was different. This fight has not been stopped after this. The mindset was different as far as how far a fighter would go. How rough was it in those days?
Well, I think the codes were much tougher. You know, you didn't stop a fight because a guy was blinking. Later, after the third fight, everybody changed, and they got much more cautious. But you can see from there that he gets hit. Paret gets hit punches that nowadays they would stop a fight.
Right. Gil, how aware were you in the Griffith camp of that beating that he took against Fulmer?
Well, I certainly was aware of it. You know, it's something that happened, and Paret's manager took the fight with Emil, which I don't think he should have taken at that time.
I think that basically Paret was on the downslide, and this certainly didn't help him, getting beaten by Fulmer.
Something we're you're used to now, but to tell the fans who are younger out there, you went from 147 welterweight to 160 middleweight. There's no 154. There's no junior middleweight to go to. So you go up to middleweight, you're fighting a much bigger man, and Fulmer was a much bigger guy.
Fulmer was a full-body man.
Right.
This was not a slim svelte of a man. This was a big man who fought throwing everything he had behind every punch. And you can see what he was doing to poor Benny Kid Paret.
So let's pick it up. Let's go to the third fight right now. Round 6. We're going to pick it up. And as we'll see that Benny Paret had his moments in this fight. 6th round. Gil, your thoughts here as we're seeing Emil in the white trunks, Paret in the black trunks, Griffith, in the black trunks as he goes down from a hook. Your thoughts there, Gil, at that moment?
Well, he really got nailed. There was no question about that. But we had worked in the gym. I used to tell Emil, I said, Emil, Benny is not known as a big puncher, but every once in a while he gets off a perfect punch. That was an instance of it right there.
Now, when he went to his corner, was he out of it? Or
no. By the time Emil got to his corner, after like 10 seconds, he was right back to normal. And I told him at the time, I said, Emil, look, he's going to come out now and try to get you out of here. And he's going to be throwing wide punches. All I want you to do is punch inside. Just keep throwing short punches until you get to this guy.
Hey, Pete, how close was this fight going into the final rounds?
I think it was pretty close up to the 10th, maybe. I was sitting in the upper deck as a fan watching this fight.
What was it like for you to watch it? What type of fight was it?
Well, it was a tough fight. You could see every round was tough, the way you saw it from back up. And when the knockout came, it was ferocious. It was as ferocious a knockout as I've ever seen. And I got up as a young reporter from the city side, grabbed some paper out of my pocket and went right to the dressing room. I knew it's going to be a mob scene there, and it was.
We're going to take a look at it right now. There's been speculation over the years as to Griffith's state of mind coming into the fight. Perret, as we mentioned before, taunted him about his sexuality prior to the second fight, did so again before this bout as well. Many feel that really stirred inside of Griffith and carried into the ring that night. Whatever the reasons, again, this was a close fight. We showed you already in the 6th round that Griffith had gone down. At this point, though, Griffith will take control. Let's watch it right now, the devastating conclusion in the 12th round.
This is probably the tamest round of the entire fight. Not bad. There's the red was dropped again. Griffith dropped him. Right against the ropes, almost helpless. A minute to go. And they're going to stop it. They're going to stop it as Perret sags to the canvas. Perret goes down from sheer exhaustion. Look at him there. As his hand has got his mouthpiece out. Dr. Schiffer's coming over to look at him. Perret has collapsed from exhaustion from that beating on the ropes. And Dr. Alexander Schiffer of the commission is trying to get at him. The fight has been stopped, and the winner and new champion is Emil Griffith, but we're more concerned.
Always difficult to watch, and it's always difficult to deal with. Gil, you know, you've addressed this many times in your life. With the distance of time, what are your thoughts of that night and what happened in that fight?
Personally, I just think that was an accident that happened. It shouldn't have happened, but it was something where Griffith caught him with a series of punches, 17 clean punches in 5 seconds. That's how long it took him.
What do you think in terms of how much his feelings, as opposed to just his general controlled boxing, took over? You know, did he unleash a lot of those punches just trying to get back at Perret for having taunted him?
No, I don't think so at all. I think it was strictly the way he fought his fights, and he followed his directions and everything the way he was supposed to and won the fight. But I don't think any other emotion had anything to do with it at all.
Pete, what were the thoughts as far as Ruby Goldstein, an experienced referee in that ring? Was the blame pointed toward him, or was it, again, it's a difficult spot in that the man wasn't down, the ropes kind of holding him up. Look, this ring deaths to this day in boxing. What were the thoughts at the time?
Well, I think it goes back to what we were talking about the earlier fights, you know, that in those days, you didn't stop it. The champion stopped it. And you see, looking at the film now, that after the first 5 right hands unanswered, and then the rest of I counted 16, but 16, 17 punches.
And the returns are not in from upstate yet.
None of the last punches should have landed because the fight should have been over. So it's hard to pin the rap on Ruby Goldstein. He's an ex-fighter. He knows what happens in the ring. But the code then was the fighter stops the fight, not the referee.
And yet, let me ask another question of Gil. There was always the thought that Perret, who played possum a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, would that have played into his mind that he might be, for the first couple of blows, playing possum to come out throwing punches of his own?
Yes, he probably would have done that. And that's what happens. You know, a lot of Latin fighters used to do that in those days. They'd get back in the corner or something and make out they're taking a pounding or maybe take a couple of punches. Then all of a sudden they come out of it and start punching themselves and get everything back. But in this case, he never had a chance to come back.
It would take 10 days, Bert. 10 days, Perret would finally die because of his injuries in the ring.
And 11 days till every legislator got up on a soapbox and tried to ban boxing.
It was on national TV, so that had a big effect on all that. Gil, what was going through your mind and Emil Griffith's mind after Perret passed away?
Well, after he passed away, we took Emil Griffith up to the Concord Hotel and let him have a little peace and quiet in his life, you know. And we discussed a little bit whether Emil was going to retire or not retire. And he decided he wanted to continue to box. And that's what we did. But his first fight after that, we took him all the way to Australia to fight Ralph Dupas. But in my opinion, Griffith was never the same after that fight. He would beat guys, you know, and he'd really do a job on them, but he just wouldn't get them out of there.
He even would back up if he had him in a corner, similar to what he did Bert.
That's correct.
How did it affect Emil? I mean, he had read different things about him, having dreams and just being haunted by it. How haunted was he by this?
Well, he to this day, he claims that he had these dreams and it bothered him quite a bit. And he says it still does. So I can't argue with him on that.
I think people who aren't in the fight game wonder why fighters are so affected by it, being that you're doing your job. It's not your job to stop the fight, but what effect does it have on a fighter when he realizes you go from the jubilation of winning a title, of winning a fight, to turning around and seeing a man falling in front of you? What type of effect does it have on a fighter?
Oh, it has to have. I know it had a tremendous effect on Griffith. He was never the same after that knockout. He would win fights, but he just wouldn't put guys away. That's what happened with him.
Pete, what effect did it have on the sport? What happened from that point?
Oh, on the sport, it was enormous. Because, as Bert said, everybody said, wait a minute, what is this? Essentially, boxing is entertainment.
How often is it on national TV at that point? How many
die
nights? How many nights a week is it on national TV at that point? Boxing.
Fridays
Fridays and Saturdays nights?
Only one on Friday.
No, this was a Saturday fight. It had gone over to ABC and it became Saturday night rather than Friday night.
But it was a staple.
But they had also
night a
boxing at the St. Nick's on Mondays, I think.
Yeah, but this was a singular. But I think it being on national TV, not in some small smoke-filled club in East Overshoe, not only brought out the politicians, but it basically ended, for that era, boxing on television.
Oh, that's true. That's true. It took a while for it to come back.
And, because nobody wanted to see a death, so to speak.
But to return to something Brian mentioned, it depends on the fighter, how you react. Ray Robinson killed a guy named Jimmy Doyle in Philadelphia. There was an inquest. Robinson appeared, and he was asked, didn't you know you had him in trouble? And he said, sir, getting people in trouble is my business. So some fighters would react differently. Emil was a very sensitive fellow. When I would see him at the gym, which was not that often, but I would see him, he was a very sweet guy, in the best sense of the word. So I think it would affect him more than it might affect Ray Robinson, for example, or other kinds of fighters. Doesn't make them greater or lesser fighters. It makes them different kinds of men. There's many ways to be a boxer. And Emil was one of those people that really did, as Gil said. Later on, he would pull the string, he wouldn't unload to do what we knew he could do. And what Gil must have known he could do, he wouldn't do. And that was a different kind of fighter than most fighters.
All right, guys, thank you so much. As Bert mentioned, really, it wasn't until maybe the advent of Muhammad Ali that boxing began to get that prior popularity after the Bert tragedy. Coming up, we'll have the action from Ali's trilogy of fights with his arch rival, the great Smokin' Joe Frazier. Plus, we'll have a triple header of heavyweight fights from the rivalry of a more recent vintage. We'll see Evander Holyfield and Riddick Bowe. It's all coming up on Ringside Rivalries here on ESPN Classic.